Run. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Great Lakes Shipwrecks Live. This is Brendan Baylod, your host on the Great Lakes Shipwreck Research Group. We've got a great show tonight. Tonight we have an old friend who I've worked with for many years, and we've done quite a bit together. I'm really pleased tonight to have Kimm Stabelfeldt on. Welcome to the show, Kimm.
Thank you. Thank you.
Let's give people a little bit of time to join. If you're out there in the cyber world, do me a favor and leave a couple of messages to let us know you're listening, and then we can start the show. So, a couple of housekeeping things I'll take care of before we dive into the show. No pun intended. As many of you know, I haven't been doing the show every week, but this time I've got two in a row. Primarily because last time we had Kimm scheduled, I think it was last month, right, Kimm? And you had
that was a month ago. Yeah, computer problem.
Yeah,
I got hacked big time.
Oh man, that's happened to me. It really sets you back.
Oh yeah.
Well, we're glad to have you on, Kimm, and glad you got your computer back. Here we go. We got some people coming in. Good to see some folks starting to chat. So yeah, we were able to reschedule Kimm, so I'm really glad to have him on. We have a lot of shared history together that we're going to explore tonight, and we're going to talk about some of the really neat stuff that Kimm's doing now, because Kimm is still a really active guy in the Great Lakes maritime history community. So really looking forward to exploring that and talking about some of the things that are coming up that we may be involved in. So a couple of housekeeping things for this time. I want to thank everybody who joined us last week for Mark Gamage and Joe Van Wagenen for their live announcement of the discovery of the Augustus Handy and the Nightingale. We dropped the press release on that immediately after. And so that came right out of this group. Congratulations again to those guys for kind of a really neat set of discoveries over in the Thunder Bay National Marine Sanctuary. It was a good show, and hopefully we hear more from those fellas as they get out there and look for more shipwrecks. Couple other things. I have other guests scheduled for the near future. I'm trying to, I don't think I have it up right now, but we will have a show, I believe, not until after the first of the year. We're not going to have another show over the holidays just because of the people that are going to be busy. So let's look for a show in January. We'll have a couple of new guests. So without further ado, let's get things kicked off. So Kimm Stabelfeldt, for those of you who don't know, if there are any of you out there that don't, Kimm was one of the founders of the Great Lakes Shipwreck Research Foundation and the Ghost Ships Festival, along with myself and Bob Jake and Tim Reed and Brad Friend. And that was an ongoing thing for quite a few years, but Kimm is the one who really did most of the work, I think, in the long run for that. And Kimm has always had a real, serious passion for exploring Great Lakes shipwrecks and for bringing people together in the dive community. He's led a lot of those type of community efforts over the years that have really kind of made the diving and shipwreck community and the research community in Milwaukee and really in Wisconsin. He's been one of the kind of the glue that's held a lot of that together. So I'm really glad to have you, Kimm.
Thank you.
One of the questions I always ask everybody, and I actually don't know this about you. I know a little bit about your background. I know you were in the military, and I know you're from the Milwaukee area, but how did you get involved in diving? That's something, you must have been a pretty early guy to be doing it. And, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, my parents were from Milwaukee, and I grew up in northern Illinois. Okay. My dad was president of Stevens, Kirkland, and Stabelfeldt, an advertising company. And my mother was your standard housewife person. But I really started in Palatine, Illinois, where I lived in the 50s, from 1950 to 59. We watched Sea Hunt, okay? And Sea Hunt, my brother, Lloyd Bridges was the main. Mike Nelson was, I think it was Mike Nelson, yeah. And my brother and my neighbor Jim and I would watch that. We're all going to be frogmen. That was our goal, to be frogmen. Okay. But my brother and Jim both entered the Navy, never became frogmen. My goal was to become a frogman in the Navy, but I held out in college too long and got drafted. So in the Army, basically for special ops that I was involved in, I learned how to dive. I started to learn how to dive. Never got certified in the Army because that's not what they did. They basically took you out, put you in a pool with a 72 steel tank, J valve on it, double hose regulator, a weight belt, fins, mask, and we had this depth gauge, which was really a very interesting. We had no pressure gauges back then. It was a very interesting thing. It was like a big watch on your wrist. It had an open cylinder. The water pushed in there, and it told you how deep you were by pressure. Very unique, I think. But so I got started there, and just loved it. I mean, from the Mike Nelson days and sea hunt, and now I'm finally underwater, even though it was in a pool half the time in the Army. After I got out of the Army, I got married in 1972, and my wife was very interested in diving also. So I went to, Karen and I both went to Bennett's Academy of Scuba and Ski, and we got certified there in the early 70s. Shortly after I got certified, I went with my brother-in-law up to Munising, Michigan, saw my first wreck. We rented a boat from Hinky rental up there over at Christmas, and went over to Murray Bay there and dove on the Bermuda or Grenada, whatever you want to call it. And as they jumped in the water right above that wreck, that was it. Okay, I was hooked. I was hooked into shipwreck diving from that day forward. We went from there directly over to the Smithmore, 110 feet of water.
Wow.
So we went from 30-some feet to 110 feet of water. Crazy. But I really loved it. Really got enjoyed in shipwrecks, and then just kept going from that. One wreck after another wreck after another wreck. So that's how I got started.
And so you did that. So Bennett Academy, that's Richard Bennett. He's still around. There's a guy I'd like to get on the show. What was that?
Still around. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Run into him every so often at different events and stuff like that.
Very cool. So you were diving up in Munising, interesting, up on Lake Superior. So what did you start diving in Milwaukee? Was it, some of the shore wrecks, or how did you get into the Milwaukee wrecks?
Well, yeah, we did, this is 1972, 73. I just got married, didn't have a lot of money. Shortly after getting out of the military, I was going back to college. So worked at First Wisconsin National Bank at night as a EDP reconciler. So I didn't have a whole lot of money. So we did a lot of shore diving. Okay. Went down and did the volunteer. We did the what's that other one down there? Sebastopol, yeah. And of course you went over and did the one off of Capitol Drive, the Appomattox, which was quite a walk. And that's how we got started. And then basically I ran into some guys that were divers, either through Bennett's Academy or someplace else. And we started to do a little boat diving. So then I got out to the Willy and all these other wrecks here in the Milwaukee area. But I still had a passion for traveling around the Great Lakes. And I loved doing that. So I would hook up with different charter services when I could. And back then, you did a one tank dive for like $30 and a 2-tank dive for $50. So we would go out and do those. And basically in the early 70s, I can't remember the exact year, we were diving on the Smithmore up in Munising. We put a dive plane behind the boat, and we dragged ourselves out towards the Hermann Hetler, and we came across the Manhattan. So wow. We found the Manhattan. And we dropped off and looked at that thing. The first thing I saw was the safe cover. I'm going to say the safe cover because that's all it was, because I whooshed down there real quick, pulled it up, and there was sand down there below it. So we found that wreck. took it back to Hinkie and let Hinkie know about it so he could run charters out there. And I think it was 2 or 3 years later, somebody claimed to find the wreck, but people have been going out there for 2 or 3 years already. So it was kind of interesting. Back then, it was not such a big thing, I don't think, to find a wreck. It was just passe. Yeah, I found a wreck. Okay, let's go dive it. Type thing.
Yeah. There's one behind every stump and under every rock. Back in those days, it was like probably a fairly common occurrence when you were in an area like that.
Yep. We did a lot of diving in that area out there. Went all the way out to the Superior, which went down in 1856, way, way out on a long boat ride. So we were diving out. When you think of a charter boat, you think of a big charter boat. We were diving out of a 18-foot aluminum boat with mouthboard on it, falling over the side and, using our gear down there. And, again, it was just kind of like the military. We had May West vests. We didn't have BC. So, I mean, my first BC, you blew it up by your mouth. You took your regular out and you blew into it and you filled it in. Then one year I got some extra money and I bought an automatic inflator for my BC. Now I was driving Cadillacs, believe me.
Large. So Kimm, one of the things that I know, kind of got me interested in you had never met me, but I knew about you because of the books that you wrote. And for those of you who don't know, in Milwaukee, there was a guy named Alan Rowe, and he went by a lot of different names, noms de plume, but he wrote a whole mess of different books. And Kimm got involved with him. Can you tell us a little bit about that background? These are the Alan Rowe books: Lost Ice Houses, Old Resorts, Forgotten Logging Camps. My favorites: Make Money in Diving and Salvage Laws for Weekend Divers. And of course, Relics, Water in the Kitchen Sink, A Diver's Guide to Underwater Archaeology. Can you tell us a little bit about this stuff, Kimm?
Yeah, well, the first book I had heard about, was Hollow Pits and Sunken Ships. I'd been going up to Door County, and this was early in my career when I was working for Clark Oil as a computer programmer back in the early 70s, and then a project leader. And I heard about this book, and I found out the guy Alan Rowe was in Milwaukee. So I called the guy up and I said, "Hey, can I get your book?" Drove over to his house during the lunch hour from 84th and National to his house on the north side, picked it up, took it back to my office, and read the whole thing in the afternoon. And then, next couple of weeks, I was up in Door County with a little bitty boat with a little horse engine on it and looking for wrecks, and visiting all these wrecks that they had. But he was a unique individual. The Relics, Water, and Kitchen Sink was another one. How you clean the wrecks, how you take care of them, put them together, and everything else. I owned all these books at one time. When I moved from my place in Wauwatosa on Honey Creek Parkway to my little house right before my wife died, I gave all my books to the Historical Society of Wisconsin. Tammy's got them all. Make Money in Diving. We all made money in diving. I don't know how. They're unique, And it was interesting. His Lost Ice Houses, his resorts, his logging camps, all inland lake stuff, which is very interesting. But that wasn't my passion. In the 45, 50 years I've been diving, I think I've only dove 5 or 6 inland lakes. I stayed on the Great Lakes. I've dove all 5 Great Lakes. And then now you just listed my books here. My first book that I did was Explore Wisconsin Shipwrecks, and it was a guide to also munising. What I got done, I got tired of going on charters, and the guy said, "Oh yeah, we're going to go out to this wreck, and it's wonderful, and it's great, and you get out there, and it's a pile of boards and some ribs." And, so I wrote about the books, about the wrecks that were interesting to me and weren't just piles of lumber. And, that book sold like crazy. I think it was one of the first really known books on shipwrecks that people could use. I know there were a few more out there, but it was a simple book to pick up and read. It would cost like $6 or something like that. And then I wrote Wreck Diver's Handbook. The Explorer Divers Shipwreck, I mean, Explore Wisconsin Shipwrecks came out in, I think, 1980. Wreck Divers Handbook came out about 1981. And it's interesting. It was used to train wreck divers in wreck classes, I found out. They sold many, many copies. The cover shows an old Spanish ship. I did not get to make the covers. I was a little irritated by that one, but it sold very well, and it did good.
They are cool. They are cool, well ahead of their time, and they were the only things you could buy until about Wisconsin, or about Wisconsin shipwrecks, until your main three books came out, and those were a bit later, weren't they?
Yeah, they were the late 80s, early 90s. The first one covered the lower part of Lake Michigan, volume number 1 there, the blue one, and that covered Chicago and Milwaukee, basically, probably up to about Port Washington, if I remember right. And then the second one, the red one, covered kind of a midsection up into the Door County area. And then the third one basically covered Whitefish Point up in Lake Superior. That one came out a little bit later because I was doing a lot more deeper diving at that time. Excuse me.
I remember, Kim, a lot of these books, you couldn't walk into a dive shop anywhere in Wisconsin and not see these books, or in Illinois. They were everywhere, and they were great books. They're the only place you could really read and learn about these ships, because you did some excellent original research when you put these out.
Yeah, I did a lot of research. Went down to the Rangi files down at the Milwaukee Library constantly. Did a lot of work on these things. Did a lot of research. It was fun to do it and fun to enjoy what I was doing and diving. And the thing is, I dove all these wrecks too, which was very important to me. Because a lot of the wreck books that came out for years and years and years were kind of a shotgun method, and these guys didn't really dive them. They just listened to somebody else tell about them and write about it, which was interesting, but not the same aspect of being on the wreck itself. Okay.
Well, and if you had these books, a lot of them just had Loran because that's all there was at the time. But you knew that the numbers were accurate because Kimm had been on the wrecks himself. And it was always an issue because you'd get these wreck lists with numbers and they'd plot to be in a cornfield somewhere.
And they were out. They all had Loran numbers on them right to where we were, because that's all we had at that time. It was basically Loran, and GPS was not available because it was the late 80s, early 90s. And the interesting part was some of these wrecks are in deeper water, and I enjoyed doing that. I mean, I remember going on some of the wrecks in 160, 170 feet with a 80 aluminum and a 15-foot pony bottle, And then as we moved further into Whitefish Point and we started doing deep diving, we basically did trimix diving before there was trimix classes. We used to get together at the hotel at night and mix gas. I had my own compressor. I had all sorts of T-tanks of helium and oxygen and argon, and we'd suit these things up. We'd sit around with our little computer program that we had. I don't know where it came from, but told us how to mix these gases and everything. And we'd be laughing and drinking beer and going, we'll probably kill ourselves tomorrow.
Oh, God.
We were literally, we were down to 200 some feet of water. We were doing the Zilla, we were doing the Comet, we were doing the Superior City, some wonderful wrecks up there, and 170, 180, 190 feet of water. And on mixed gas when we didn't know what the hell we were doing. We were just having a good time.
Well, I'm glad you're still in one piece, Kimm, after all that. It's interesting that I first met you because I saw these books and I wanted to meet you in the worst way, because I've been researching shipwrecks mostly up in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. I'd only recently moved to Milwaukee, and I was like, who the hell is this Stabelfeldt guy with these interesting books? I want to talk to this guy. And I was talking to Irv Blumner at Irv's dive shop down there in Hales Corners, and I said, Kimm? He says, oh yeah, Kimm comes in here all the time. He's always looking for someone to dive with. He'll go out with any, he's drop of a hat, he'll go out. So I'm talking to them, and all of a sudden they say, well, here he is. he just walked in the door. So I came up and I introduced myself. Mr. Stabelfeldt, I'm Brendan Baylot. Can you sign my book? That was my thing, you know.
Yeah.
And that was the first time I ever met you. I think it must have been in the early 90s sometime. And
Yeah, it was early 90s, mid 90s. I mean, you weren't in the state that long. I mean, in Milwaukee that long. Because I remember walking in and you know, hey, you're Kimm Stabelfeldt.
yeah,
Yeah, I am.
I was a young man. I was no gray hair. But what I remember and why it was important to me is that we started, you know, talking, and I got your email address, and we got to know each other. And over the years, we did a few things together. I remember you told me about a lot of the cool wrecks. You got me involved in the Wisconsin Marine Historical Society. And that's something that I learned about really from you. It was a big growing experience for me in terms of my ability to do research. But I remember we started to do some stuff together with the Great Lakes Shipwreck Research Foundation. But I remember first and foremost, you and I were volunteering at the Wisconsin Marine Historical Society. And for those of you who don't know, this most unusual character is Hermann Rangi. And Hermann was, you know, sort of, I guess if he was still alive today, we'd probably say he was on the spectrum. He was just a real eccentric antiquarian who collected just tons and tons of Great Lakes books. And he had a card file of every ship that was ever on the Great Lakes from all these registers. He had a wreck list that was astounding. And in 1958, his house caught on fire. Apparently, the house was so crammed with Great Lakes archives that you couldn't walk through it. The hallways were like 2 feet wide only because there were shelves in every room and in every hallway. And so anyway, the house caught on fire. Hermann got burned a little bit. So the Wisconsin Marine Historical Society was actually formed in 1958 to take care of this collection. And they took it in many truckloads to the Milwaukee Public Library. And it's still there. And they've built upon it quite a bit over the years. And Kimm was a trustee there. And before him, John Steele and Kent Bellrichard were trustees. Steve Radovan was a trustee. I was a trustee for a little while. Tell us a little bit about the WMHS, Kimm, and your work there.
Well, you know, it was someplace that I knew the Rangi collection was down there, so I wanted to get involved, and I would spend many hours in that Rangi collection all the time. But I was on the outside of it, you know, in the library section. And eventually I got to know enough of the people that they said, you know, we need somebody in the back to look at this stuff on Thursday nights and organize it and reorganize it and catalog it and everything else. So that's where the real trick was, to get in the back area. And then you could go and, I mean, pull any book you want and look at it and collect that information. And like you said, the rec file was, well, if you could read it, his handwriting was so small and so tight, you could read a couple of those things, spend an evening in there and walk away with a headache, for God's sakes. Yeah. But it was fabulous. And then we started talking after I became a trustee. We started talking about putting this thing onto a computer, okay, because my background is computers. Not as fancy as they are today, but and that's when, you know, I built the Alpha 4 system, which was software, fourth generation language, and we were able to start loading it then. You were very involved in that and putting that stuff together too. And so Thursday nights when we were down there was a number of us that worked on that. And I don't remember if you made it or not on Thursday nights, Brendan, but I was probably the youngest guy there. And let's just say
you were.
It was interesting. You know,
when I showed up, Kimm, they didn't know what to make of me because I was in my 20s.
I know.
They thought I didn't know what they thought about me because there was nobody else even near my age there. You were the next youngest guy, and I think you have, you know, at least 10 years on me. And but I got in there, and one of the things that I helped with was transcribing all his cards into your Alpha 4 database. They hired me on some sort of a grant from Elizabeth Cutler, and I was working part-time for like $7 an hour entering cards. And I'd come in there in the evenings and just type in those Rangi cards. And I did it for about 6 months. And I typed in 30,000 Rangi cards, I think, all told. And thank goodness that you did that and that you put together that Alpha database. because I think that's the only place where all that data is compiled now.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it is, unless, I haven't been in the back room or anything with and talked to Suzette about it for a number of years, but I think it's all still there. I mean, and it's online now, I believe. They modified it.
Yeah, the Project Shipshape files there.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was really you, Kimm, that kind of got me involved. And that's the first place I came in contact with this stuff. And I was like a kid in a candy shop. I was like, oh my God, there's all these old archival files. And, it's kind of quaint by today's standards, But Rangi was a very important early Great Lakes vessel photograph collector. And he compiled a lot of data about vessel losses. The Rangi wreck list is, at the time it was sort of the holy grail, and they kept it under lock and key. It's now more widely available, but that really was at the time sort of what everyone wanted, because it would, it's what the wreck hunters used, Yeah.
It was a great time too to rub elbows with John Steele and some of these other guys that, were way ahead of us. They were finding wrecks back in the late 50s and early 60s.
Yeah, that's how I got to know Steve Radovan, was through the board of the WMHS. And a lot of these guys took me under their wing. I really appreciated that there were not too many of us younger guys. And so a lot of the older fellas were really supportive. And you were one of them, Kimm, I think, who was very supportive. And the reason I stayed interested in many ways, I think. So,
well, my rec list that I've got, a lot of it is John Steele's rec list, because he shared a lot of the information with me. So.
Yeah, and then Walt Herthy. I should
Walt
mention Walt. He's a professor at Marquette University, and he was a very serious researcher. And he and his wife Mary wrote that book, Schooner Days in Door County. But a lot of his material was there too, and a great guy and a wonderful researcher. Do you have any remembrances of Walt?
Oh yeah, Walt came out to my office a number of times, and we would sit and talk. We'd have lunch. I mean, when I was working out in Mequon, when I was director and vice president of MIS, he'd come out there and visit me, and we'd go out to lunch and talk about wrecks all the time. And it was a pity that he died so young, older than me, but.
Yeah, I've got his. He's got a wreck list too that I don't know where I got it from. Maybe Steve Radovan. It's really good. It's every. And he tracked all the ships down to their enrollment surrenders. Really good stuff. But so there were a lot of characters I know that we met over the years through that organization. But the big thing that came out of our affiliation, and you'll recognize this, Tim Reed, who he's still around. He doesn't dive much anymore, from Milwaukee, did this artwork for us. I think all this started as a result of a film festival night. We call it the film night at Bob Jake's house in his living room in the mid-90s. And we were watching shipwreck videos, and we were all excited about it. And we all said, we should really start a film festival. And kind of the reason was that Jerry Geyer, and many of you'll know Jerry, the longtime Milwaukee dive charter operator. Jerry had a film festival at one of the high schools for years in Milwaukee, and it had sort of gone, he had quit holding it. And so we decided to start a festival and to start this foundation. And the idea was going to be, I think, Kimm, that we were going to, go looking for shipwrecks and buy equipment. And I don't know, we had a bunch of lofty ideas.
Yeah, the film festival was going to fund our research and everything else. It got a little bit bigger than that.
Oh, God.
Prior to the Buccaneers and Jerry starting that, Dick Bennett had Frank Hoffman in for a film festival back in the 80s, and I was fortunate to have dinner with Dick and Frank, and that got me starting thinking about shipwreck festivals and stuff like that. And then when Jerry got his going, and it just got further and further. And so I remember we were sitting, I think you're in your apartment over on Granger or something like that.
Yeah.
And we were talking about this, and I said, we could fund this thing, through a festival, not knowing that it was going to grow into such a big festival,
take over our lives. But I remember we used to do a lot of cool diving. I took you guys up to the Keweenaw. Remember diving on the sidewheel steamer Traveler in Eagle Harbor?
We tried to do the archaeology work on that thing.
Yeah, that's right. Do you remember the Seiche?
Yeah. Yeah.
We almost got sucked out of the harbor. We go out, we're diving on the wreck of the Traveler. We got all our shit out there. We got all our reels and, tape measures and our slates and stuff. And all of a sudden, we feel this sort of current, and it gets stronger and stronger. Pretty soon, our shit's just whipping by us, being sucked out. We're holding onto the wreck for dear life. We're horizontal in the water. And eventually this stops, and we get out and go up to the beach, and the beach is about 7 feet lower than it was when we got in.
And our dive flag is way out the gap. Gone.
Yeah, one of the funner experiences I think we had. But so anyway, Kimm, so we had these early festivals. We had the first one at the Milwaukee Public Library. It was lots of fun. We had maybe 300-400 people. And I remember I moved to Madison and, kind of wasn't as active as I had been. And you ended up kind of shouldering this thing. Tell us a little bit about, your perspective of the Ghost Ships Festival and all the people you met. And I know this was a big part of your life for more than a decade, Kimm. Why don't you tell us a little bit about it?
Yeah, I basically, I looked at it and thought to myself, okay, here's an opportunity to spread the word about shipwreck diving in the community, not just Milwaukee, but Chicago, Minnesota, Detroit, get the whole thing going. And it's also an opportunity for dive shops to show their wares and sell their stuff, and also an opportunity for dive clubs or organizations to grow. Okay, and that's really where we took off. We started there at the library with 2 shows, and we went to a little bitty hotel there across from the airport, which we outgrew like within a year and a half. And then we went to 4 Points Sheridan over on Grange and 27th Street. We were there for many, many years, and it really, really grew. I mean, we basically, and of course, we went up to different shows. Minnesota, we went to Duluth, we went to all these other shows, always with our little traveling thing and trying to sell a little bit more wear. I enjoyed it quite a bit. It was an opportunity to really show people diving and show the interest that was going on. And there was a lot of interest. I mean, not just divers, non-divers. And the nice thing about that entire output of it is I had people come up to me for years that says, oh, I used to go to Ghost Ships and I used to see you. And that's what got me into diving, okay, was Ghost Ships.
Cool.
The shows that you guys gave. Kind of like me back in the early 50s, watching Sea Hunt, getting excited about shipwreck diving and everything. So we went from that. We did trade. I mean, you left eventually. Tim Reed left. We brought in Sean Jones. And then eventually Sean left. And Bob Jake left. And it really left just Brad Friend, who is in the middle here next to me. And then we brought in John Albrecht. And John and Brad and I ran it for a number of years. And then, it literally consumed my life. I traveled 95% of the time as a corporate executive, and I had accounts all over the United States and Canada, putting in warehouse distribution systems for Fortune 100 companies, Nabisco Foods, Elcon Laboratories, GE Lighting, just J.C. Penney. And I still worked this thing when I was traveling 95% of the time, because it was something I was very, very interested in. It could spread the word. And we saw ourselves grow. I mean, we used to, at the 4 Point Sheridan, we had a big area for us, okay, to sell our product. We had to move that into a hallway because we had so many booths. We were like 75, 80 booths in that thing. It was fabulous to see that. And the dive shops grew. We had dive shops from Minnesota, from Iowa, from Ohio, from Illinois, from Indiana, from Michigan. It just seemed to be the right place at the right time to do this, and it was fabulous to do it. And we used to have 2 shows at an hour because we'd gotten so big. We'd have, we'd have the main speaker on Friday night, and then we would sell the Ghost Ship glasses, which the bar offered a $3 fill on their glasses. So we sold tons and tons of glasses.
I remember those. I've got a full set.
So do I. And so our main speaker would be Friday, and then Saturday we would have 2 shows an hour. We'd start at 9 or 10 o'clock in the morning and go till 4 or 5 in the afternoon. And it was fabulous. I mean, the place was packed. We got up to 600-700 some people. We had John and Richie come in, from the History Channel.
Yeah,
that was a huge success. I mean, unbelievable. And we had Ralph and what the hell was his name? They found the Confederate submarine.
Yeah, Ralph Wilbanks.
Yeah, Ralph Wilbanks. And I'm sorry, since my brain injury, I've lost a lot of memory. So but his little buddy there, and it was fabulous. I mean, to do that stuff, it was just a great thing. And I think, I personally think, and it's not me that built it. We built the community. The whole group built the community of divers.
Right.
Kept going out there, more charters and everything else.
Well, you have to admit, though, I mean, you really were the driving force for many years. It was the you were the salesman. You went out and brought in the booths. You brought in the speakers.
Yeah. Well, we would do the same every year. I would say, okay, we need X amount of booths to keep this thing going. So at the end of each show, I would walk around and I would sell booths for the next year. Hey, you got a good discount here, this your opportunity to buy it, So I guess I was kind of a salesman on that, and we would fill half the show the next year with booths that would pay for everything that we hoped. Now, I know the first couple years I kind of financed it out of my own money, and after the show I would get my money back, but we were struggling. We were doing good. I think we did a fabulous job, and I'm very proud of what we did with Ghost Ships. And I had resigned from it in 2014, and it went 2014, yes, because my wife's cancer was so bad. I had to spend more time with her, and she passed away in 2015. And I still offered my time to John and Brad if they needed it, but I just couldn't do it 365 days a year. And it basically closed down. 2016 was, I think, our last show.
Yeah, and I think kind of what happened is that the hotels thought of us as, Milwaukee is the city of festivals. They've got an everything festival in Milwaukee. And the Ghost Ships Festival is sort of one of those things. And I think the hotels thought we had a lot more money than we did.
Oh, yeah.
And we jacked up the rates on Brad and John.
Yeah.
And we couldn't afford to keep doing it. I mean, we they didn't have a home for it anymore.
Yeah, we ran into that with the 4 Point Sheridan. I mean, we started off at a very nice rate. By the time we did about probably 10 years there, maybe 8 or 9 years there, it had almost tripled what we were paying in the beginning. It was unbelievable.
Yeah, and so it was an amazing thing, though, and I was really proud to have been a part of it, for the time that I was. And but you, I think, really, devoted so much of your life to it, Kim, and it was such an important thing, not just for Milwaukee, but for Chicago and for the northern part of the state. And I know we helped a lot of other organizations because we had the Ghost Ships or the Ghost Ships grant. We helped the WUAA. We helped the Underwater Archaeological Society of Chicago. We helped the Great Lakes Shipwreck Preservation Society. We helped Michigan Shipwreck Research Associates. We helped MAST in Cleveland. I mean, you remember some of the other places we were able to get grants?
Well, we did a lot of those organizations, but we also, one of our main things was buoys. We provided brand new buoys to a lot of wrecks so that people didn't throw their anchors into the wreck and destroy the wreck. And Bob Jake was putting buoys out, and Adrian Druitz and I were putting buoys out when I ran a charter service and was a Coast Guard captain, and we would put buoys out all the time. And Tammy would bring them down, and Jeff Gray and everybody else. So a lot of investment went into those type of things, but a lot of the grants went out to other places too, where people could expand and do stuff. And I worked quite a bit with the Minnesota guys to get their program up and going and making it look good. And they basically had started out in a high school gym, and they grew quite well too,
Well, yeah, I remember those early shows at the UMSAT. Well, it wasn't the UMSAT show when we first started. It was Dive into the Past or something.
Dive into the Past. Yep.
Yeah, it was really interesting. So
they did a good job. They did a wonderful job. Yeah, and of course the people over in Michigan, at Holland, Michigan, we worked together with them quite a bit, and a lot of grants there. Ross Richards was out looking for the Westmoreland, and we granted him some money to help him keep going, and he eventually found it. So that was cool.
Yeah. Very cool. So
Yeah.
Kim, let's switch gears a little bit. So ghost ships, came and went, but you remained active. Tell us a little bit about Great Lakes Shipwreck Archaeology, your group that you have really kind of inspired and gotten this new endeavor going to document shipwrecks in the Milwaukee area.
Yeah, well, after ghost ships, and after my wife passed away, I needed some sort of an outlet. Okay, so I put together Great Lakes Shipwreck Archaeology, and under Great Lakes Shipwreck Research Foundation, we had done the Traveler, the Volunteer, the Lumberman, the Kate Kelly, the Fireboat 23, the Norlond, and I needed some sort of an outlet to continue to do that. I was no longer part of our Great Lakes Shipwreck Research Foundation, so I started up the Great Lakes Shipwreck Archaeology group, and we've done a lot of work in that area. We've done the Reliable, we've done the Bond, the Coal, we've done a wreck called Sandy's Wreck, we've done Willy's Barge, and right now we're doing the Astrabula. And these will be eventually put into books. One you've got up there right now. Okay, go back to the beginning there, would you? Go back. Okay, back one more. Okay, this is one of our. This is again, okay. Keep in mind these are all amateur archaeologists. Okay, and we're down there with slates and everything else, and we're drawing as best we can draw. This is one of the drawings, and again, we go down there, we do different sections of it. We do okay. We get together beforehand, we organize it, we say, okay, Bob, you're going to take this, and Pete, you're going to take this, and Joe, you're going to take this, and Carol, you're going to take this. And you go down there and you start drawing these things, and eventually we put together a big drawing at the end. This is one of them. Okay, this is Carol put this one together, and she redraws it above ground after she's got some good measurements and everything. Go to the next one, please. Okay, this is the part of the Astrabula. Okay, there's two big anchors down there. John is the guy that did this, and there's the bilge pump down there. This is the one that we basically just started 2 years ago. We got towards the end of the season, we got on it. Last year we got on it. This year we got it very little because of COVID-19. But we've only been on it like 5 or 6 times. It's got two beautiful anchors down there. On our last dive, I found the ship's wheel broken in pieces. Okay.
Wow.
We're going to be looking at that. It was right at the end of the dive. Center board's down there, a lot of information. But again, this is a brand new one that we're just getting started on. And it's a beautiful broken up wreck. There's a lot of artifact down there, a lot of good stuff to look at.
Wasn't this Jerry Geyer? For many of you know Jerry Geyer, Pirates Cove dive shop down on the south side of Milwaukee, and Lender Charters. He's really a giant figure in the Milwaukee diving community. He found this wreck, and Jerry is one of your partners in this this group of yours, isn't he?
He's our charter boat. Okay, he's very, very cooperative with us, helps us as much as he can, gives us a good rate on charters, and encourages us to get out there and do it. He's not making a ton of money on this, but it's something that he loves and enjoys, and he's always out there searching. He's the one that gives us the ideas of, what can we do next after we spend maybe 3 years on something or even longer. And, he knows I've dove all these wrecks except for the Astrabula, which was just recently found in the last 2 years. But so we go out there and we do those, and we enjoy doing those things. And it's a small group of people. I mean, we're giving people an introduction on how to do archaeology. I provide all the information. This is a drawing that Pete is working on, which shows one of the connections on the wreck. I believe this is the Astrabula. Excuse me, this is the Reliable, I believe.
Yeah, the sandsucker.
Yeah, sandsucker. And he gets his measurements, gets his drawings, does some fabulous work on this stuff. And again, Pete Pete was a radio guy, and he was worked at Channel 58 until he retired a year ago or so. But he gets interested in stuff. He's been with us since Fireboat 23. He went with us through the Norlond. I don't remember if he was with us on the Kate Kelly or not, for the lumberman. But he really enjoys getting into this thing, and he does some fabulous work. Now, the next one shows the sandsucker head. This is at the end of the hose, and they would change this head, pick up the type of gravel or sand that they wanted. As you can see, it's kind of like a catcher's mitt, and it's got metal in there, which says no big rocks can get in there, but small rocks or gravel or whatever can get through that little section there.
So
and that was fine down there to find that just laying down there.
Oh yeah, and for those of you who don't know, Milwaukee has 2 wrecks of what are known as sand suckers. These are ships that had suction units that harvested sand from the lake bottom through these suction hoses. One is the Reliable and the other is the Hiram Bond, right, Kim?
Yes, yeah. Reliable and the Reliable was run down, I think, by the Chicago, and the Bond was run down by the Marquette car ferry thing.
Dangerous to be on a sand sucker because they were often lying low in the water because that sand was so wet, and then they were run down by other ships. There were 2 of them that way off Milwaukee.
This is a shot of the Bond, okay, and again, we still work on some of these things. What we do is when we get done with a project like this, first of all, I have to file for a permit from the state archaeologist. I have to do that every year for us to do this. And then at the very end, all of our research, all of our drawings, everything, all our pictures and everything that we've taken are sent to the state archaeologist, Tammy, to be filed and put in her filing system. So, I worked with Tammy and the Greens,
Russ and Kathy,
and also with
Jeff Gray,
Jeff
David
Gray.
Cooper.
I mean, I go all the way back to the very beginning, and we did a lot of this archaeology work. I think my resume probably says I've been on 109 different projects on this type of stuff.
Bet you have.
But then, just getting out and doing this, there was a need, I think. Divers were anxious. People were asking us, from ghost ships and that, how can I help you guys? How can we go out and do archaeology together? The state was kind of, you had to go through a certain class with the state. You had to go through medical training, and you had to go through CPR, and we didn't make that requirement. So Wisconsin, the Great Lakes Shipwreck Research Foundation funded a lot of this. When we had ghost ships, that was one of the things that we funded. And now we're self-sufficient. The people that provide the dive with us, they pay a charter fee, and some of that might be only $10 that we gain on each one of those charters, but we put that into a kitty so that we can continue to do this. Okay, this one here, what wreck is this?
Looks like it's got some machinery on it.
Well, that's the Reliable.
Yeah,
that's the Reliable.
Very cool. And then Pete Costello looks like he drew this one here, Sandy's wreck. This is named after Jerry.
Sandy's wreck. Yeah, that's Sandy's wreck right there.
We don't know what it is yet. We're trying to identify it, correct?
Yes. And this is one of his first drawings. He's got a drawing on Sandy's wreck that is unbelievable. It's gorgeous. It just, he spent so much time on that thing, drawing it. It's just fabulous. Now, that is the Willy Barge. It's out not real close to the Prince Wilhelm, but there's all these dump barges around it too. And it's an interesting barge, because if you look at the very bow there, it's got a hookup, and a wheel that runs through there. They could pull this barge up behind a boat, and they could put it behind it, and that was where it was driven by back there. And then it's got these we call them fenders. If you look at the back of the boat, it looks like 1959 Chevy fenders, for God's sakes. It's beautiful.
It's got a lot of tools on it. It looks like very cool.
Oh, it's got a lot of stuff on it. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about the reports. So I know this is something that I helped with a little bit. One of the things that Kim's group did was they surveyed the Milwaukee Fireboat number 23, and I wrote the historical part, and Kimm did the archaeology, and we came out with what I think is an excellent guide.
Yes.
With this book. Are any of these still available, Kimm?
Yes, I've got a case at least in the basement.
Milwaukee's
and the Norlond. It's something the was giving to me after I left Ghost Ships. Thank God for Brad and John. They gave them to me. They just wanted to get some of their stock away, so they gave me these things, and that's what we've been selling for years to help finance our diving that we're doing.
And these were
the Fireboat was 3 years.
Yeah, and these were joint ventures with the Wisconsin Underwater Archaeology Association, a group that Kimm and I are both very active in together.
Yeah.
Kimm's group has a lot of WUA members, and basically there's a lot of overlap between the two groups, and we work very well together.
Yeah. So, we, again, the Norlond, another 3-year project. These things aren't things that you can just run out there and draw up. It takes a lot of time and a lot of effort, and a lot of people enjoy what they're doing, I think. And we've got, on all these projects, that we worked on with Great Lakes Shipwreck Research Foundation, with Great Lakes Shipwreck Archaeology, we probably had 40 or 50 people that worked on these things, but we have a strong core that's always out there helping us. Same ones week after week sometimes.
Very cool. So what's the next wreck, Kimm? I know we might do a couple more of these reports.
Yeah, well, we first of all, we got to get closer on the Astrobula and get that thing done, and then we'll sit down with Jerry and talk about what's available. We're dealing with recreational divers. Okay, so we basically aren't going to go out and do 140-foot deep wreck. Okay, so we do wrecks that are in the 50 to 100-foot range. I mean, the Fireboat was about 100 some feet. Norlond is about 80 feet. The Astrobula is 80 feet. The rest of them have been in the 30, 40, 50-foot range. So, and we can't. You don't have the time to do a deep wreck. You got time to do this. We set up a time. We say, okay, you got 30 minutes or 25 minutes on the bottom. Do your drawing. You got to come up with 500 pounds of air. You got to stop at 15 feet and do your deco. So we only get so much time to work on this stuff, and it's amazing. You get down there and you're working on this stuff, and I'm the last one in the water and the last one out of the water, because I go around the wreck and tap guys on the shoulder and go, hey, we got to go. I remember this from when I was doing underwater photography. I'd get so deep into what I was doing, I'd forget what time it was and how much time I was down there and how much air I had. So,
oh yeah, I know how that is. So Kimm, are we going to do a report on the sandsuckers?
Yes, I've got that probably 3/4 written already, and I'll be sending it out to one of my divers. You saw the really good drawings that Pete did. He proofreads everything for me before he's the radio and television guy, so he proofreads everything. He's got the first draft proofread already, so that's been nice. And I just have to get back and get it going.
Definitely. And I've got a lot on the Reliable. The Captain Krumer, the boat exploded, actually. The boiler exploded on the Reliable.
That's what it was, yes.
Captain Krumer was, his 2 young boys were on the boat. They were just little boys. And they were clinging to the wreckage, and they were brought onto the passing steamer. And
Chicago.
They were inconsolable. They thought he was dead. And at the last minute, they found him floating on the wreckage and brought him in. It's a hell of a story. I wrote it up. And if you want to hear about the stories of how the Reliable and the Hiram Bond were lost, they're good stories. And hopefully we'll get a report out here next year, Kimm.
Yeah.
Let's change gears a little bit. So Ghost Ships Festival, isn't around anymore, but there are a lot of other groups around. And Wisconsin's had kind of a void, I think, for a nice community event. And one of the things that Kimm and I have been talking about with the Wisconsin Underwater Archaeology Association is starting a new spring festival that we are going to tentatively call the Ghost Ships Festival. It's going to be a little different, I think, than maybe what the Ghost Ships Festival of the past was. But it's something that Kimm and I are going to certainly not lead. We're both kind of old guys now. Some of us older than others. But
Pick
what
on
are
me.
your thoughts on the new Ghost Ships Festival, the Ghost Ships Festival Mark II?
Yeah, I think we can do that, put it together and everything. And I don't know how big we want it to be, but that's further discussions and everything.
Yeah, I think what we're going to do is right now the talk is that if we do it, it's going to be virtual because it's going to be this spring and the plague is still about us. But I've done a couple of these online festivals already through this channel, and it's been pretty successful. And so if we did it, we'd start it out virtually, and it would be a smaller event, but more, community based around this community of people who are in this group in Wisconsin and in Michigan and other states who want to, learn more about our wrecks. So it'd be kind of cool. But one of the things I know, Kim, that's been really important to you is building these communities around the Great Lakes and helping these other maritime history and diving communities around the Great Lakes. Tell me a little bit about some of the work that you've done over the years with these different groups that that you've been involved in, I know, and that you've worked actively to help.
Well, it's I don't Chicago group. There's a number of guys down there that I've worked with over the years. I go down and still give talks down there, encourage things to to spread their wings a little bit further. The Michigan shipwreck group over in Holland, Michigan. I've had great times with them and worked with them and tried to make their program a little bit bigger, but it's a fabulous program that they give out there. The Great Lakes Shipwreck Preservation Society, like I said, had started out, I believe, in if I remember right, in a gym in a high school, and they moved up a little bit further, and they've done an excellent job. I mean, they are really committed to getting this thing done. And when one of the first times, I think you and I went there, Brad. I mean, Brendan, and they had Fred Stonehouse there. And we were both just going, "Oh my God, Fred Stonehouse!"
I remember that.
And Underwater Archaeology Association, I've been involved in that thing. I've been almost from the beginning, not from the very beginning, but they've really put something together. When I donated my collection, I had 65 or 67 banker boxes full of books, 3,000 some books and papers and filing and everything else. I was talking to one of those members, and one of the older members who used to run that thing. He said, "I've spent the last 2 years just filing and listing and collecting your stuff, going through it."
Yep.
And so there, that's for the state, Tammy's organization, that to do that. But Tammy also shares a lot of information. She's fabulous at doing that, and all the archaeologists that we've had have been very good about that, sharing their what they've been doing, what they got, and everything else. And John, the head archaeologist, land archaeologist, who I have to go through to get my permits every year, has been very, very cooperative and very supportive also. You've got Mass on there. I don't remember doing much with them. I think we provided a lot of information to them and money to them at one point. But
yeah, in Cleveland, the Marine Archaeology Survey Team.
Yeah,
I can't echo enough what you said, Kim, about the state program. Tammy Thompson and all of her predecessors, and John Broyhan, the state archaeologist. They've been so supportive of all of the efforts, and Tammy Thompson in particular. And many of you know her. She's our state underwater archaeologist here in Wisconsin. She has been involved in nominating more wrecks to the National Register than any person in the world. We have more wrecks on the National Register of Historic Places in Wisconsin than all other 50 states combined. And most of those wrecks, the vast majority, were put on there by Tammy's efforts. And we really are big fans of hers, just because she's so enthusiastic and so supportive of these different diving and underwater archaeology communities. We're very fortunate here in Wisconsin. Wouldn't you say, Kim?
Yes, one of them that you're missing there is the Duluth group. The
Lake Superior Maritime Museum Association, the people who hold Gales of November.
Yes. See, when Pat Laberty was up there, I worked with him quite a bit before he went over to the Michigan group. In
The Thunder Bay group.
Thunder Bay, yeah.
Sanctuary.
But, you know, and they started their show up there, and I helped quite a bit there on getting them going and everything else, and getting it to again, a lot like we did. We started as a small group in a small location. We built and built and built, and that Duluth one built quite a bit, and then it kind of shrunk again. I don't know what happened up there, but.
Well, it's, you know, function of age and time, I think, in some ways, Kimm. So we're right up on the hour, and I wanted to kind of circle back a little bit and just you know, reflect on some of the things we have coming up. So, Kimm, if people want to get involved with your group, Great Lakes Shipwreck Archaeology, and go out diving with you, how do they get in touch with you?
So just email me or call me.
All right, and that's Kimm S at.
No, it's K Stabelfeldt, just K Stabelfeldt at AT&T.net.
That's right. Cool, because it's a great group, guys. And if you're in the Milwaukee area, or even if you're not in the Milwaukee area, you know, and you want to get involved in learning how to survey shipwrecks, Kimm's a great guy to do it with. You know, he's got a great group of people, good support, and Jerry Geyer's boat, the Lindor, is a lot of fun to go out on. So
yeah, we don't make a lot of qualifications. I mean, if you're a diver and basically you go out and start diving with us, you're not going to start drawing right away. You're going to hold the opportunity end of the tape, as we call it.
Very cool, Kimm. Well, hey.
And then eventually, when you get comfortable with us and you're comfortable underwater and you're comfortable, we'll give you an archaeology bag and you go start doing your drawing. You know.
Very neat. Well, guys, we have a Zoom room tonight. And for those of you that have questions for Kimm, I know a number of people have asked questions over the course of the show. Come on into the Zoom room, and we are going to have a really good conversation. The link to the Zoom room is right on the Great Lakes Shipwreck Research Group page on Facebook. Click on it, enter the code, come on in and join us. We're going to have an hour. Grab a beer, use the little boys or little girls room. 8:15 it starts, and join us for our Zoom room. We're going to have our guest Kimm there, and we're going to have a great conversation. A lot of people who know Kimm and have known him for years, so it should be a great talk. Kimm, any parting thoughts or comments?
No, just safe dive, everybody. You know, and wear your mask, not just your back, your rest.
That's right. Thanks so much for doing this, Kimm.
Okay.
Good night, everybody.